run us through and move at a good tact. And so there's a number of people in the room who went through all of the trouble, and it is a long survey to fill out the whole survey and go through the whole vetting process. And so I'm going to invite our first speaker to come up here and speak. And you have 10 minutes, and I'll let you know when we're down to maybe like 1 minute.
Are you looking at me, Lillian?
You did well, Lily. You did before. I didn't think so. You were good. Right on the
So our first speaker is going to be Miss Jen Flebotte. Did I say that last name right?
You got it.
All right, cool. All right, here we go.
As you were giving me the eye directly to me, I guess that means I'm up, right? So, wow, this is incredible. You know, I think this is the first time I've seen that this many of us as candidates in one room together in an intimate setting and being able to just commune, right? It's so lovely. Thank you, Lillian and the RLC for putting this together. This has been a long road to get here, and I'm very grateful for this endorsement. Most of you, few of you don't, but many of you know my story. I am a single mom, 3 boys, one of which is floating around here somewhere, right in front of my face. One is 22, one is 14, and one is 10. So I have 2 currently in the Hillsborough County school system, and I am a mom. I'm a mom, I'm a businesswoman, and I am not a teacher. And why am I running for school board? A long story that I will spare you all with my 10 minutes, but a small portion of that is this gentleman right here, who at 8 years old, he's now 14, thank the Lord. He had a stroke at 8 years old in school, and everyone looks at him now and is mind blown that this child had what he's been through. I don't really allow this long hair in my house, for the record. It's because he's covering a very large scar that goes from the top of his head all the way down to the base of his spinal cord at the top of his neck. And he had a stroke, and at 8 years old, no kid has a stroke at 8 years old, which is not normal. At the time we were living in DC, I grew up down here. I'm a Plain High School graduate. I went to UF, I am FIU Art Institute for Architecture and Design, and moved back here. I had my children here, and I got pulled away to work about 7.5 years ago into the DC metro and Virginia area. That was, by the way, as blue as these tablecloths. Yeah. And I was this teeny tiny red dot in a sea of blue, and at that time that was inconsequential to me, right? I knew where I stood, I knew where I was voting, but what I didn't understand is that translates right into things as what we see on the day-to-day, which we call now down ballot, the most important races of our communities: school board, commission, county commission, city council. And when I was trying to fight to get this young man milk off his tray at school and put a water on it, I found through a lot of digging, and I'm a project director, so I'm a problem solver by nature, that it was deep embedded what they were trying to pull even in the school level. I couldn't get him water because there was a milk and dairy contract with the school system, and we had to keep a small milk on that tray, whether they threw it away or not. Yet we were fighting an incredible amount of poverty in the area called Triangle in the DC metro, where these kids could have really used that milk, right? We were throwing it away. How tragic is that? And for me, as a single mom, and I am also that house that loves having all the kids at my house. Like I love, if anyone follows my personal social, if the kids aren't always at my house, I feel something's wrong, something's off. And I'm looking at this as why aren't we helping all the children? This is madness. So I dug deeper, kept digging, and one thing led to another, and I was now fighting the largest school system in the country, which was Fairfax County. And I got in there, and I decided that this was my mission, that there was kids who needed me, and my kids had me, and there's many other parents who can't do what I do, and I'm devoted to my children, my work, and that's been my life. So we get in there, and there's 15 superintendents, district superintendents, to get to the next level of directors, to get to the actual superintendent, and then to get to the school board. I managed to get all the way through all of them and get that superintendent fired for many of egregious issues that they had done at the time. And bam, COVID hits. And now I didn't know what I didn't know about what was going on in my son's classroom. Forget the nutritional department, forget the contracts that they were manipulating, not in our children's best interest, but now I'm learning of what they're teaching our kids in the classroom without my knowledge as a mother. Now, that being said, my oldest son, he's 23, he just graduated college, UT Knox Pre-Med. He is doing amazing. He's also off my payroll, thank you, Lord. And he is he was an excellent student, and I had to work with him to get him there, right? He was National Honor Society. He went to UNC Chapel Hill his junior year of high school for a biomedical program. That takes work as parents. I get that a lot of parents don't make that commitment, but I was the parent who was making that commitment. So when COVID hit, and I'm sitting next to my other son, who's the youngest one at the time, is in the first grade, with my hand on his knee and my computer for work right next to me, and on 14 weeks of FMLA with him, while still working, I'm listening to a teacher tell my first grader that they're gonna learn about pronouns, and they're gonna learn he, she, they, them, and you can be a furry. And I put my face into the screen, and many of you have heard this story, and that woman, like, she couldn't believe that there was actually a parent online for online school. And to me, I couldn't believe there wasn't, right? But to me, that's what you do. You commit to having children, you're there, you raise your children. So I committed right then and there to figure out now what is going on inside my classroom. At that same time, simultaneously, we had within about 3 months, we had a young man who was identifying as a female and was raping had raped 2 girls in 2 different high schools in our surrounding county, and that superintendent was trying to put them into our schools, which happened to be my oldest son's school. All of this is happening at once, plus COVID, plus his brain surgery that happened in the height of New York City, by the way, in COVID, and we were back home trying to recover. All of these things happened, and my eyes were thrust so wide open. I had toothpicks in my eyelids. I couldn't shut them, and I don't think I've stopped since. When that young man was being put into my son's school, and selfishly, I have to say, as a single mom, I was very invested in my son having a scholarship, and he had earned scholarships. He had a full ride to UVA, he had a full ride to Penn State. He chose to go to UT Knox. I'm not gonna say anything because it's the wrong color orange in my mind, but he still had things that could be jeopardized by another child in his school that needed a parent but didn't have one. But at that time, I was being selfish and I needed to be my child's parent. So I got in front of the school board, refused to wear a mask, was toted out of the meetings because I refused to wear a mask, and got a very small faction. Remember, blue tablecloth, tiny red dot. Nobody up there subscribed to what we thought through this whole. Every one of us knew what was going on, but we had no help. We had no backup, but we had to fight. We had to fight to get in there, and we did. And ironically, you guys all heard about it down here in the news when it never got any coverage up there. So many of you might have heard about that young man who raped the 2 girls and was being put in, and we got the superintendent fired. That was me and about 6 other moms. That's how I fight. That's how I get things done. And I came home, and I'm just gonna skip over a little bit to be respectful of time. I got an opportunity to come home for work, and I looked at everybody and looked at my boys, and I'm like, hey, you guys wanna move back to Florida? And I'm like, peace out. I'm going back to the free state of Florida. I'm coming home. I'm gonna be back, and we're gonna not worry about anything. And I've been home a couple of weeks, and I had some people in the party come to me and say, hey, Jen, have you been to a school board meeting down here? And I had gained a lot of attention up there with what I had been doing, and then also with Youngkin's campaign, and I had enough, really. My nervous system was a wreck. If you think about it, all that fighting, all that arguing, all that everything, just to try to get the tiniest little needle moved. What I didn't realize is I moved major needles. We moved major needles for a lot of other people to make a movement, to become activated, to not let this happen again, to learn how to fight, to learn how to get through the bureaucracy, learn how to get through the school board's issues, learn how to lobby at the state and local levels. I learned all of that in the course of 4 years, and so when I came home, I was asked, my gut immediately was like, no, everything's good here, right? I just came home, everything's good. I went to one school board meeting and I said, put me in coach, now, right now, I'll take it, let's do it. I realized that we have 7 sitting school board members who are all teachers, 2 of which are great. However, out of those 7, 5 are not great at all. They're beyond not great, they're subpar. And the reason I chose the countywide seat is because it is the hardest seat, right? And no disrespect to my co-campaigners who are, Myosha has a hard race as well. But when you're talking about a countywide seat, and those of us who are running countywide, it is an enormous feat. And it takes somebody who can move that needle, and who has learned how to fight these fights, and who knows how to get through the bureaucracy, and also doesn't kowtow to the ones who are trying to bully us, right? And unfortunately, we do have some of those in my race as well. It's unfortunate. We have some in many other races right now. We have a faction here that does try to manipulate our elections, but I'm not one of those people who cows down. So I'm hoping that that is why one of the reasons that the Liberty Caucus understands that I'm not gonna back down. I am that fighter, and I do have the knowledge to do that. I also am never going to partake in those political games that I'm seeing some of the people in my race do to partake in right now. There's many of us who have been part of this faction that we've all been victims, if you will. I don't consider myself a victim. I consider it a compliment. If you're putting people like that in my race and you're funding people like that in my race, you're worried and I'm coming for you. And that's just what we have to do. And as much as I would like to remain humble, we can't be that humble. We have to be driven disruptors and passionate about what we're doing to be sure we're fighting this fight and not backing down. So that's why I'm running, and I appreciate all your support. Obviously, for those of us who aren't campaigning, the biggest things that you can do for us are volunteer, forward our social media posts, like our social media posts, and fundraising and donating is critical. And we are in that juncture right now. I run a primary, so I will primary in August 20th, and then planning on being in the November election.
Ooh.
With many of you here.
Awesome.
Or
Do you think that we should,
Ask questions?
yeah,
Move forward.
maybe 2 questions?
Sure.
2 questions per candidate, okay. So, do you have any questions in the room?
Is there anyone here not running other than, Carrie? I'm so glad you came, Carrie.
Well,
We're gonna have
you know-
wait, 2-hour conversation
Yes.
this week?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Oh yeah, candidates are also our constituents of other candidates.
Yeah, I
So
think
yeah.
most everyone has heard, maybe not you, maybe, I don't know, who hasn't heard me go
I
on
want
or
to
stumps?
I want a question. What you
Lance.
brought up here is, oh yeah, Lance had a question?
Yes,
No.
Lance has a
No.
No,
question.
I didn't have a question, I was just saying I haven't heard you talk.
What?
Sarcasm.
Yeah.
That's not funny.
Now, one thing I know you talked about in the past, we expanded upon it, is your idea, get the budget under control in the school board. And right now, with $9,000 we're paying per student, we're definitely not getting $9,000 worth of service for our kids.
Well, my question is always, is this, why would we look at a sitting board of 7 educators and want to go back to the definition of insanity? Why do we not want to get business people up there? Why do we not want to get a tech person up there? Why do we not want to have a balanced board? We're asking ourselves what's going wrong. Well, we've had 7 educators up there for 30 years. We've never had a diverse board ever. Why? No matter how much we might like another candidate or how our feelings are warm and fuzzy for somebody, why would we put that scenario back up onto that board and risk our tax dollars? You have heard me, Jim Davidson and I are the only 2 people and any candidates that have gone to the Board of County Commissions meetings and spoken out against a critical infrastructure tax for the school board, for anybody else, because why? I don't want to be taxed. Taxing yourself is foolish. And all of them sitting on that board don't know how to balance a budget because it's not in their purview. I would no longer go in to try to teach a 7th grade classroom and do it successfully than I would expect a teacher to come in and run a $4.4 billion budget. I'm not apologizing for that. They have a critical job, and truthfully, much more critical than mine. I mean, I couldn't do what they do. The good ones. The good ones, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, did that answer your
Yeah,
question?
it did, thank you.
All right, do you have any other questions in the room?
Dave's got one, I feel it. All right.
Okay, cool. We're gonna move on to the next person.